side of the gadget. In that regard, Madam Speaker urged honourable members who would need assistance to indicate the clerks at the table.
After those three announcements, the House did proceed to consider the question without notice during her honor the Vice President's question time, and at exactly 09:45 hours, business 46 hours, business was suspended until 10:26 hours.
And His Excellency Mr. Felipe Nus, President of the Republic of Mozambique, delivered a special address to the House. After that address, the Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, Honorable Chipoka Mlenga, did deliver a ministerial statement on the 72 billion United States dollar investment.
Well, that we did see quite a number of huge interest from various members of Parliament asking follow-up questions, seeking clarity from the Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry. After that, the House did consider a report, and this report was presented by Shangombo, Member of Parliament, Mr. Movika, who is also chairperson of the Committee on Transport, Works and Supply, and the question was proposed that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Transport, Works and Supply on the freight in Zambia for the third session of the 13th National Assembly. This document was laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 26th June 2024, and it was seconded by one Member of Parliament. And it being 12:55 hours, Mr. Second Deputy Speaker interrupted the proceedings and the debate on the motions to adjourn. And it was the Acting Minister of Transport and Logistics, this is Honorable Gary Nkombo, who was just responding to various concerns that were raised by various members of Parliament. So today, when business resumes, the Honorable Acting Minister of Transport will continue responding, and the House did adjourn at 12:56 hours. Basically, that's the business that was considered on the floor of the House, and I know you and I, Kulabet, were looking forward to the long weekend, and it's belated Heroes and Unity Day.
Absolutely, it was. It's a high time, or rather, we should always, say thank you to our heroes for fighting for various, things here in the country. Independence, for instance, from the colonial rule, and that was Heroes and Unity Day that fell on Monday and Tuesday. And so we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back. You can now advertise on Parliament Television and Parliament Radio. For more information, call 0977 854102 or 0977 536487. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
All right, it's now time for us to turn our focus and look at what is expected to be considered on the floor of the House. Madam Speaker is expected to make announcements if there will be any, and urgent matters without notice if there will be any.
Her Honor, the Vice President will move a motion that the House places on record is thanks to His Excellency Mr. Felipe Nus, President of the Republic of Mozambique, on his special address to the House on Friday, 20th June 2024.
The House is also expected to consider the report, and this report will be moved by Mr. Kamboni, who is the chairperson of the parliamentary delegation to the 148th Interparliamentary Union IPU Assembly and related meeting, urging the House to adopt a report of the Zambian delegation to the 148th IPU Assembly and related meetings held in Geneva, Switzerland from 23rd to 27th March 2024 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, and this document was laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th June 2024.
After consideration of that report, we have consideration of the Matrimonial Causes Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2024, which is coming up at second reading stage. Here we'll see members of Parliament actually critically look at this particular bill. They will debate this bill at a second reading stage. That's the Matrimonial Causes Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5. of 2024.
So we do have three motions, like my colleague mentioned earlier on. The first one is thanks His Excellency Mr. Felipe Jacinto News special address that the House placed on record. Its thanks to His Excellency Mr. Felipe Jacinto News, President of the Republic of Mozambique, on his special address to the House on Friday, 28th of June 2024. If you were with us last week on Friday, we did witness the head of state from the Republic of Mozambique addressing Parliament.
Of course, we have resumption of debate on the report of the Committee on Transport, Works and Supply on the road freight in Zambia. At the time that the House was adjourning, the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development was adding his voice to this particular report. So we do expect the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development to, continue with his thoughts regarding this report of the Committee on Transport, Works and Supply on the road freight in Zambia.
So that's basically business for today, and any time from now I'll be able to see the presiding officer, and indeed not forgetting Madam Speaker making the way to the chamber, and that will signify the commencement of today's business. I'd like to aid you, those of you that are following us on our social media platform. It could be YouTube, Facebook, and those of you that are tuning in to our website. I'd like to say thank you so much for being with us. It feels like a Monday, but it is a Wednesday. So there you have it. That's the Sergeant at Arms leading the First Deputy Speaker. That means business is about to commence. Colette and I will be on hand to give you live commentary. Good afternoon.
Honorable Members of Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Land of faith and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our right. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our motherland, fashioned with and led by those who men. Let us all have people join as one, brothers under the sun, oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry, dignity and peace in Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, remain with them under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Order, honorable members. I have two announcements to make. The first one, honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Angela's Nursery and Primary School in Kasenshi Extension, Ndola District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. Thank you, and you may take your seats. The second announcement, honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Bukurupe Kindergarten and Primary School in Livara Stage 3, Lusaka District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. Take your seats. Urgent matters without notice. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I thought there was a third announcement. Madam Speaker, the matter of an urgent matter without notice I'm raising is directed to the Honorable Minister of Energy.
You may go ahead, Honorable Member.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, recently, His Excellency the Republican President gave directives which were applauded by the whole nation to the effect that ZESCO was going to make sure that they ensure that all our health facilities, the hospitals, are not load-shedded. In short, are not made to run without power supply. He went further to demonstrate why that was important by illustrating that it would be life-threatening to allow a person on the operation table not to be attended to by the medical personnel on account of power shortages. And he also spoke about life-saving machines. Madam Speaker, the Minister responsible for Energy and ZESCO opted to ignore those directives. I have a schedule today issued on the 1st July. And Madam Speaker, on this schedule, groups are categorized in numeral letters. And they are saying Group G of Lusaka Province, which is Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company, stroke hospitals, are to be road-shaded between 08 hours to 20 hours. You can only imagine, Madam Speaker, how that is going to impact on our people. And sickness does not wait for electricity. people fall sick, there are road accident victims that may need urgent operations and might not be attended to because of this schedule, Madam Speaker, which I'm going to lay on the table. Madam Speaker, is the honorable member to come and comfortably sit here, knowing that he has defied the directives, presidential directives, which were given publicly. Honorable Minister, this is not a joking matter. Is in order, Madam Speaker, to ignore the presidential directives together with his ESCO, who have become now a thorn in the flesh to many people, including our manufacturing industry, which is failing to function. We seek your serious guidance on this matter, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much. I'll ask the Honorable Minister of Energy just to come to this house to give us a ministerial statement stating whether the hospitals are being load-shedded and other important institutions as seen in the schedule for load shedding. Please come back to this house and inform the public whether truly that is what has been planned for, or you are observing the directive by the President. You can come back to this house with a ministerial statement on Friday. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Karabo Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The matter of instant importance without notice is directed to the Minister of Health. Madam Speaker, whilst we appreciate that the drugs in hospitals, the levels have increased, there is some challenges which the district administrations, including that in Karao, are facing. Because what is happening is that the district is supplementing by getting part of the grants which hospitals and health centers receive. So they will get part of the grant and buy the drugs which are not available, which are not provided by ZAMSA. Therefore, causing challenges on the other sections of the hospital, like doing some manuals, paying, doing maintenance of vehicles. So that becomes a challenge. Therefore, it all impacts on the patient because if machinery is not maintained, vehicles are not able to move because the money has been diverted to securing drugs. Again, Madam Speaker, ZAMSA is supposed to provide medicines to all health facilities. My request is, wouldn't the minister come to the House and indicate what is the policy of the use of grants, which is causing challenges on the hospitals, vis-a-vis the supply of drugs by ZAMSA. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Karabo Central. Again, that matter seems not to have happened within 24 hours. It sounds to be an ongoing problem. So the Honorable Member, please come back to this House, maybe through a question. You can raise a question for that matter, and it's specific to Karabo Central only. The last member is the Honorable Member for Mukushi South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to raise a matter of urgent importance without notice on the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Relations.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, We have seen what is happening in Kenya. We are seeing on BBC, the youths have gone on the street, and we sympathize with those that have been caught up in that fracas. Now, Madam Speaker, my matter of urgent importance is on the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Relations to find out what is happening in Kenya, how safe are our Zambian people there. Have they taken stock of the people there, our people there in Kenya? I seek your indulgence, Madam Speaker.
Okay. I will advise the honorable member to come up with an urgent question to get clarity from the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs. We make progress. Notice of motion, Her Honor the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House places on record its thanks to His Excellency Mr. Felipe Jacinto Nyusi, President of the Republic of Mozambique, on his special address to the House on Friday, 28th June 2024.
The question is that this House places on record its thanks to His Excellency Mr. Felipe Jacinto Nyusi, President of the Republic of Mozambique, on his special address to the House. Any debate? Her Honor the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, the National Assembly of Zambia was greatly honored to host His Excellency Mr. Felipe Jacinto Nyusi, President of the Republic of Mozambique, who addressed the House on Friday, 28th June 2024. Madam Speaker, the address covered a number of important issues of common interest to the people of Mozambique and Zambia. In short, the speech was centered on bilateral relations between the two countries. In this regard, I would like to make a few observations on the President's speech. Madam Speaker, Zambia and Mozambique have...
Member for Chirubi, you are too loud. You may continue, I honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam. Madam Speaker, Zambia and Mozambique have enjoyed cordial relations dating back to the time of the Founding Fathers, Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda and Mr. Samora Machel, respectively. Over the years, the relations have been growing.
The Honorable Member from Pika, please leave us, because I just gave a directive to say, can you please lower your voices? Honorable members, I'm talking to the Honorable Member from Pika. Her Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam. Over the years, the relations have been growing from strength to strength, and it is the desire of the two countries to continue on that trajectory. Madam Speaker, for quite some time now, whenever Zambia has encountered challenges to do with production of electricity due to drought caused by the El Nino phenomenon, as the case is now, Mozambique has been on hand to export electricity to Zambia in order to alleviate the crisis. Without this intervention, the situation could have been unbearable both in industry and at domestic levels. This could have greatly impacted the economy and consequently people's lives. We are therefore grateful that the cordial relationship between the two countries is bearing fruit, especially in this time of the crisis. In terms of governance, Madam Speaker, It is satisfying to note that His Excellency, Mr. Felipe Jacinta Nyusi, in his speech, touched on the very important aspect of reforms happening in Zambia and Mozambique. He observed that Mozambique, like Zambia, was committed to empower people to make decisions on developmental issues affecting them. Thus, local people are now taking ownership of developmental programs in their localities. This is a classic example of decentralization. You may wish to know, Madam Speaker, that decentralization is empowering and changing the faces and lives of the local people as exemplified through the Enhanced Constituency Development Fund, CDF. In this regard, Madam Speaker, His Excellency Mr. Nyusi paid tribute to the Zambian Parliament for approving the enhanced CDF. Finally, Madam Speaker, among others, the Mozambican head of state praised Zambia for the role the country played in the liberation of Mozambique from the colonial regime. Madam Speaker, I wish to place on record the thanks of this Assembly to His Excellency, Mr. Felipe Jacinto Nyusi, President of the Republic of Mozambique, for his reassuring message of the commitment by Mozambique to continue standing with Zambia in harnessing the comparative advantage in the areas of mining, agriculture, transport, logistics, and energy. Madam Speaker, let me end by commending His Excellency, Mr. Felipe Jacinto Nyusi, President of the Republic of Mozambique, for leaving us with a message of cultivating reconciliation, tolerance, and constructive debate in this House on issues that hinge on the welfare of our people. This is as it should be in a democratic society like ours. With these few remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Pambasha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I rise also to commend the President of Mozambique and, of course, the last words by our Honorable Vice President. When the President sat there, he had emphasized on the unity, reconciliation, and tolerance to divergent views. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the President of Mozambique for encouraging us to tolerate one another in the dispensation of democracy. That is the key. And when I stood last time, Madam Speaker, I did state that the sign of maturity is the ability to contend with the divergent views. Once you are not able to contend with that which you don't agree with, it's a sign of immaturity. We can only be seen to be mature when we are able to tolerate other divergent views. And that was the message by the Mozambican president. And that is the core for democracy. And that is the anchor for the rule of law. We must be able to tolerate one another. And to demonstrate that, Madam Speaker, the Mozambican president had the fruitful engagement with the Republican president. And he went also to engage the former president, the 60th Republican president for Zambia. That to show we can have different the political ideology, but we must be able to find a common ground where we must be able to meet. That is a sign of mature leadership in democracy. We must be able to demonstrate that we as Zambians, I may not agree with your political ideology, but that doesn't mean we must differ personally. We must not have personal differences based on the difference of the political ideology. That was the message I saw from the president of Mozambique. And as a country, as a mature democracy, Zambia that got independent in the long before Mozambique, we must be able to learn. We must be able to grasp and be a better country, as he stated in the speech that Zambia is a beacon of democracy within the Southern African region. that we must demonstrate internally, so that as our friends are looking at us, they must look at things that we are able to live with and things that we are able to demonstrate. That is very important. That is key to democracy, that is key to growth, and that is key to maturity. If you fail to comprehend different opinions, then, alas, it will be different for us to contend. And we must be able to be, he stated very important statement, Madam Speaker. In the discharge of our leadership, we must not be afraid to make mistakes and take responsibility. That was a message to the executive. That was a message to the opposition. In the discharge of your function, maybe you made a very wrong calculation. You had overdone things. Maybe you sold maize more than the advice you received from the technocrats. We must be able to stand up and say, yes, we made a mistake. That is the hallmark of leadership. And one best example is the Minister for Local Government. Or whenever he goes wrong, at least he stands up to take responsibility and to own up to say, yes, sorry, I have erred. Because to err is human. That, Madam Speaker, the President for Mozambique had emphasized on leadership not to be scared to make mistakes. And to get to the people and face them to say, yes, we thought we can do it this way, but it has been done this way. We are sorry. As a case for Luapula may be, today, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, the Vice President, we have Msonda Force, we are generating electricity, but Luapula is load shedded for 22 hours. The people of Luapula province are receiving electricity just for 2 hours. I'm speaking to responsibility in leadership, ability to comprehend with divergent views. That is leadership. A failure to comprehend with divergent views is failure in leadership. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to emphasize that, yes, we may have divergent in terms of individual, the pronunciation on the same policy, but what is important is what can we do to correct the wrong that we've done so that we can move together as a people. That is key in leadership. Yes, the Honorable Minister for Youth, the people said PF tolerated the cadreism, and we have taken responsibility and we have apologized to the Zambian people.
When?
Several times,
Now.
including the former president, has stood and said, yes, that we take responsibility and we do apologize. And even now, as a leader in the PF, I'm saying, sorry Zambians, that we tolerated, because that is leadership.
No, put it in writing.
We take responsibility.
Order, Honorable Member for Pambashi.
Put
You
it
are
in writing.
debating through the chair without getting any commentaries from the other members. Please focus on your debate. You may continue.
Therefore, the Madam Vice President, through the Speaker, we must be able to own up and take responsibility for either pronouncements that we make without understanding the full scale of governance. We must be able to own up and take responsibility and say, yes, we thought it this way, but it is this way, we are sorry. The same way PF thought, by tolerating cadres, today we are where we are. Maybe we erred, and that's when we came to the Zambian and said, we are sorry. I hope, Madam Speaker,
again.
You want me to cite an example? The Vice President just on Friday said, we exported maize because we didn't have enough storage and we wanted to pay the debtors. The Minister for Infrastructure said, no, Zambia doesn't have storage facility. Those are inconsistencies in policy pronouncements. So, and we, because we are politically mature, Madam Speaker, we don't hate our brothers. We love them, and we get to them to say the best here is this way. It's because we want them to succeed. When they succeed, it is good for Zambia. And it is good for all of us. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I must emphasize on tolerance and unity and reconciliation. Imagine, I want to say this as I conclude. Imagine
how sweet it will be that day in Zambia if my brother, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema, would pick up and call the 60th President and walk together. Zambia will celebrate and the peace in Zambia will return. Now the problem, Madam Speaker, is there are those candidates who want to benefit. They will not tell him the truth. Because they think by the two reconciling, they will lose relevance. So they will continue on driving on division because that's how they benefit. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, you want to debate?
Yes.
Okay, you come after the Honorable Member for Mongu Central, Bwana Mukubwa, and then the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
But what about
in that order, the Honorable Member for Mongu Central.
We are here.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Mongu Central a chance to debate the President's speech. Madam Speaker, I should put it on record that I was very worried when I heard that the President of Mozambique is visiting Zambia, because I thought he was following up on the date of electricity which the PF government failed to pay back. And good enough, he never mentioned that the PF government has left us with a debt of electricity which up to now has not been settled properly. Madam Speaker, the President's speech was very much on point, talking about the friendship that exists between Zambia and Mozambique, dating back to the days of former President Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. And we know how Zambia participated in liberating that country. But we know that once that country was liberated, they are now enjoying democracy and peace, and their economies is fairly prospering. Unlike some political parties which are still behaving like the liberation movement, even when they have been in power. We know that there are some political parties which still uses guns and swords and knives. Even as we speak now, they need to take a leaf from the former liberation movement in Renamo in Mozambique. Thank you.
Order. Order, honorable members. The honorable members on my left, order. There is an indication for a point of order by the honorable member for Lunte. What is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, I would like to appreciate the opportunity to raise a point of order on that member who is on the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, Standing Order number 71, in these new standing orders which were recently adopted, is, whatever system that was used to adopt them. Madam Speaker, the honorable member is obliged to speak factually. The President of Mozambique came here because the Mozambican people think that their Zambian counterparts are their brothers and their sisters. This is why a good relation would culminate into the highest office visiting. Is the honorable colleague in order to start insinuating that in his own limited imagination he thinks the entire president can leave his country to come to Zambia to come and solve a private company's debt of fuel, electricity, a private company's electricity debt? Is it in order, Madam Speaker, to demean a foreign president in that fashion in the People's Assembly? I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, we were all here on, when did the President come? On Friday. We listened to the speech by the President. And we are just supposed to debate this speech. But now you are meandering, trying to include other things which the president didn't mention. Can we please try to stick to the report, to the speech by the president? If we want to give examples, let them be in line with the report by the president. So the honorable member for Mongu Central, please let's try to be focused to the speech, but you can give as many examples if you feel like doing so, in line with the speech by the president for Mozambique.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I'm very well guided. I was just trying to illustrate the point that days of struggles, political struggles are over. We are now in the days of economic struggle, where we want to achieve economic freedom for our people. And when we have neighbors who are willing to enter into trade agreements with us, we need to behave like people who are trustworthy. We can't enter into trade agreements, and then we fought on our side, we don't own our agreement. That can strain our relationship. This can easily strain our relationship with Mozambique if we fail to pay the electricity bill that was acquired under the PF government. That's the point I was trying to illustrate. But, Madam Speaker, the President of Mozambique commended the New Dawn government and President Hakainde Hichilema for the good governance and the rule of law that we are currently experiencing in this country. He recommended us for the CDF, which is currently transforming lives, improving the lives of our people. Schools are being built, hospitals are being built, desks are being provided in our schools, maternity wings are being constructed. Each and every day, our constituencies are changing because of the New Dawn government. And this point was highlighted by the President of Mozambique. Madam Speaker, that's why it's very important that when we engage with our neighbors, we need to learn from them what is best that we can also come and bring and build in our country. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that the governance that is being experienced in Zambia, the good governance, is being well noted even by our neighboring countries, even by the President of Mozambique. And we want to encourage those who are not seeing it to start opening their eyes and see the development that Zambia is enjoying. Mozambique currently produces a lot of gas which is being exported to other countries like South Africa, gas that can be turned into energy products with petroleum, diesel, petrol, and even electricity. We want to be able to go to Mozambique and learn these best practices and probably explore the Barroso plane for the gas that we can use to increase the energy in this country, to increase the production for electricity in this country, and probably find the petrol and diesel that can be processed from gas. Those are the things that we need to learn from countries like Mozambique. So, Madam Speaker, we want, the people of Mongo Central want to thank the President of Mozambique for his visit, especially for not compelling the Zambian government to pay with immediate effect the bill for electricity that has been left by PF. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The honorable member for Bwana Mkubwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to comment on the presidential speech which was delivered by the President of Mozambique. Madam Speaker, from the onset, let me emphasize that Zambia and Mozambique shares a very good friendship. This is emanating from the liberation struggle. Those who were there, Madam Speaker, we saw how people from SWAPO were accommodated within our homes and various places to ensure that the leadership of this country helps another Southern African country to attain their independence. This is where we're emanating from, even as you proceed to go to Mozambique, these are some of the things you vividly see with the people of Mozambique and how they've held our leaders, our forefathers of this country in high esteem, where they've even named streets after them. This is where we are coming from. So, Madam Speaker, politics and democracy ensures that we need to coexist and we need to compete on issues and ideas. Those who've got better ideas and ideologies, they take the day. But however, Madam Speaker, we've seen that politics can also go further and become personal. And this is not what we ought to be. We need to compete, Madam Speaker, on ideas and those policies which we want to implement on behalf of the Zambian people. The President of Mozambique did emphasize and say to us, even when he was passing in this role, that it's you who needs to build this country and nobody else is going to build your country. And for me, that was one of the most important aspects which he mentioned on the onset, to ensure that even as we have social discourse as colleagues from either right or left, it's important that we look at the bigger picture, which is Mother Zambia, to ensure that we contribute ideas which will move us forward to have a proper roadmap for this country than mere politicking. When you want to point a finger at your friend, you should first look at yourself. Because some of these issues, we are quicker to politicize them, we are quicker to point fingers and to say this one has done that, this one has done that. It's very, very important that even as you want to coexist with your colleagues, it's important that you come in good spirit and you come so that you can sit and analyze and talk and compete on ideas which will make us move forward as a country, than all the time we have to sit down and politic. These are some of the tenets, Madam Speaker, of good democracy, is to coexist with one another and ensure that we propagate that which will help the Zambian people. Madam Speaker, I cannot overemphasize the issue of learning from one another, which other debaters have mentioned, and also the issue of reconciliation, because reconciliation ensures that we are in one heart and we can move forward to ensure that we help this country to come out from whatever situation which is pertaining at a particular time. We are going through a drought as we speak, Madam Speaker. It's imperative and important that both left and right, we sit and come up with mitigation measures, interrogate what the executive is doing, interrogate from our side, and we sit and say this is what befits the Zambian people. If we move in such a direction, we are able to mitigate issues of drought. We are able to pacify some of these issues which we are facing as a country. Madam Speaker, this is what brought me to Parliament, is to see to it that we compete on ideas, we help this country and move forward. But sometimes I find it very difficult, because even simple issues, we want to be champions to politic, champions to see who's best, but that won't take us anywhere. It's important that we move forward as a country and ensure that we proceed with emancipation of this country in terms of economy-wise, and how we can contribute from our various professions. We've got different people here who are engineers, we've got different people who are vested with different professions. If we put our heads together and have one heart, we have a proper roadmap for this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, politics brings us together. Politics can also scatter us. So it's important, as brothers and sisters who've come before this honorable house, that we proceed with one heart. We look at things which brings us together. We are here representing our various constituencies with a lot of, Madam Speaker, challenges. How then are we going to ensure that we resolve those challenges, we mitigate those challenges for the various people who we are representing from our various jurisdictions, which will ensure that we have proper service delivery for the Zambian people through the executive and ourselves who are lawmakers in this house. Madam Speaker, I thought of giving comment on the very, very important speech which was delivered by His Excellency the President of Mozambique to encourage us as Zambians, to encourage us as lawmakers, that we can work together in harmony, coexistence, and then we can have development in this country as we move together. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
The Minister of Home Affairs wanted to debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to the address that was made by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Mozambique on Friday last week, and wish to appreciate the speech. Madam Speaker, I am today elated that for the first time on the floor of this House, I've heard a leader of the PF, who is also a member of parliament from Pambashe, apologizing to the nation that their cadres brutalized the Zambians and that Zambians voted them out of office because of the heinous activities of their cadres. I also want to mention here, Madam Speaker, that even the apology from Honorable Member of Parliament for Pambashe is not enough. We expected, and Zambians have been expecting, that the two presidents of the PF factions should have apologized to the nation for the heinous acts that were committed by the cadres. Zambians have not forgotten the bloodshed that was shed by PF cadres. Zambians will never forget the Kamgodi. Zambians will never forget the brutality that used to take place at Intercity bus station.
Order, Honorable Minister. There is a point of order from the Honorable Member for Pambashi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Order, Honorable Members. Order.
Madam Speaker, our Standing Order 71 as adopted, it speaks to relevance. Madam Speaker had cited the tolerance to divergent views as one of the issues raised by the President. Is the Honorable Minister for Home Affairs and Internal Security, who is a lawyer, the defender of human rights, in order to debate my submission instead of debating the speech?
Order, Honorable Members. Order.
Thank you, Madam. Let me conclude my point of order. Madam Speaker, is the Honorable Minister for Internal Security and the MP for Moses Central in order to divert from the presidential address and start debating my contribution when, in fact, the 60th Republican President at the memorial site of the 5th President, he did publicly apologize to the Zambian people for conduct of his PF cadres that led to the Zambian people to rise against PF because of their perceived bad behavior, and leaves all those public pronouncements that have been made by various leaders of the Patriotic Front, including myself, that we take responsibility for the behaviors of the cadres and we apologize, and make it a debate instead of debating the speech of His Excellency News, the President of the Republic of Mozambique. I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
My guide still remains, honorable members. The honorable member for Pambashi, you brought out that matter, which now the honorable Minister of Home Affairs also touched. That's why I had guided to say, honorable members, to avoid anything that might arise being mentioned by any honorable member, let us stick to the speech by the President. The speech is so innocent. It was a nice speech. But the minute we try to bring in other things, people are going to refer to those things that we are bringing out. So please let us just stick to the speech by the President of Mozambique. I think that is my guide. And we shall move in that direction. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, you may continue. Or maybe before you continue, Honorable Minister, sorry for disturbing you. The Honorable Member for Kalulushi, we have not made the announcement yet. So it's just proper that you return to your seat. Because even the gadget hasn't been changed, your name will be appearing on the gadget where you were sitting. We make progress. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for the benefit of my colleagues, us in government have a duty and responsibility to respond to the issues our colleagues raise on the floor of this House. And I'm just doing that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm further elated by my colleague in his point of order, wherein he has stated that even the former president has confessed and apologized for the heinous acts that were committed by his members. We have taken note. It's you. It's not me who has said it. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Pambashi has indicated that we should emulate the President of Mozambique, wherein he was made or he was able to meet the former President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Edgar Chagwa. Madam Speaker, I want to state, without fear of any contradiction, that the President of Mozambique and the former President were able to meet at a hotel without interference because of the democratic tenets that are occurring in this country. If there was no democracy, they would not have met. The system would have made it impossible for them to meet. But because we are enjoying the freedom, including the freedom of changing each other and hurting each other, that is one of the freedoms which the UPND has brought in this country. And that is why you are enjoying. You are able to do whatever you want because of the democratic space that has been brought by UPND. And that is why on that day, the President of Mozambique was very happy. And I could see our friends when the President was mentioning that there is democracy in this country and that other democracies should emulate what is happening here. They were looking down because they were not happy with the good things that were said about Zambia. Madam Speaker, my colleague mentioned that if you err, you must admit and apologize. I also want to echo the sentiments of our colleague, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Mongu Central, that the PF government should be ashamed and should apologize to the nation
The Honorable
to where we
Minister,
are. Because
the
we are
Honorable
suffering.
Minister of Home Affairs, the word ashamed, the way it has been used is unparliamentary. Kindly withdraw it and replace it with another word.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I withdraw the term ashamed. But I would like to substitute that they should be subdued in their conduct by not actually accepting that the problems we have pertaining to energy emanate from their financial misconduct, where they were borrowing, where they were buying energy without paying. As a result, we have been failing to buy or acquire energy from other countries because of the financial misconduct and imprudent conduct of the PF. Madam Speaker, if the PF had not left a debt of more than $800 million, we were able to acquire energy from other countries. But because of the misconduct, financial misconduct, we have been having challenges. They should not stand on the pedal of an NTU and start condemning us when they are the ones who brought us to this problem. You should apologize when you are wrong. And I can see that you have realized that you are an elder in the church. Thank you, Honorable Chitotela, for apologizing on behalf of the PF.
The Honorable Member for Chirubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. I take recognizance that there are our children that have come to visit us, and I think modcom in Parliament is very important. I would better as a parent. Madam Speaker, I want to take concern that the President from Mozambique came through when we had two important days. That is Ilos and Unity Day. And the Ilos and Unity Day means that we were commemorating these days.
Order, Honorable Member. You may take your seat.
Okay.
The Honorable Member for Kalulush. There was a directive from the Chair or the Speaker. Thank you. Let's follow the directive. Thank you. You may continue, the Honorable Member for Chirubi.
Madam Speaker, I'll try by all means to be within the confines of a parent, because the visitors you introduced.
The Honorable Member for Chirubi, why did you stop?
Sorry, Madam Speaker, I've had a lot of these distractions because somebody stood, so I thought you had given him the chance to speak. Madam Speaker, sorry for stopping, because I thought you had given him leeway to raise a point of order. Madam Speaker, I was trying to emphasize on the 2 days, that is Unity and Ilos Day. The visit by the Mozambican president reminded me of the fraternal bond that our late president, the founding father, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, had with the presidents like Samola Machel. And it also reminded me of the struggle for independence, which in this case did not attracted self-determination and self-rule, not egocentric politics as we enjoy them today. Madam Speaker, I want to underscore that the development and the cordial relations that these two countries have enjoyed have not come as an accident. We have been brothers to each other, or rather, to be gender sensitive, sisters to each other too. But in looking at this, that shows Ubuntu. Madam Speaker, I'm sure I do not need to interpret the word Ubuntu. It's very familiar to all of us here. Madam Speaker, it's unfortunate that such a good speech could be turned in the manner that I have heard from some very senior, MPs. I would say MP, not minister. That it can be channeled like the way the Moses MP who has been there for 25 years started debating. Yes, Madam Speaker, I want also to score.
The honorable member for Chiruvi, if somebody is a minister, if an MP is a minister, he's a minister.
Yes, Madam Speaker. What I wanted to term is the terms that have been in Parliament, not the portfolio. That is what I followed.
It's in the presidential speech.
No, Madam Speaker, it's not in the presidential speech.
Okay, can you please maybe improve on your debate so that we are in line with the
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for letting me to go forward and provide parental guidance. Madam Speaker, I was also touched that after the visit of the Mozambican president, I read in the government newspapers that we are going to have a deal with that particular country to do with to alleviate the gap for electricity. I think in the management of our nation, we need to coexist. In as far as coexistence is important, we also need to be magnanimous enough to say certain things that our friends would have done were correct and copy from them. And we should not be ashamed to copy. Madam Speaker, that was a total replica of what PF did. And I think the current government, the current executive, just chose to follow what PF did. And in looking at such, I mean the deal where you talk about the deal to make sure that we seal the gap. And in learning from there, we need to be to be frank with each other to say that particular initiative was a good initiative, not to throw the baby with the water. And I think the visit of the Mozambican president also has reminded me and the people of Chiluvi that cordial relations are above politics. I am doing this reference, Madam Speaker, is that you saw that when the Mozambican president visited, despite the differences we have in the nation, he had to recognize that the sixth president of Zambia, the former president, has been a president. And he holds his own position in the history of the country and visited him. He did not bother that the other people that seem to be in a tug of war with the PF would think otherwise. I think it demonstrated Vera in his act. And I think that's how it should be. Madam Speaker, the visiting president talked about different areas of how to harness an economy, how to manage certain things, and how we should twin together and mutually exchange ideas that should add value to developing the two countries. Madam Speaker, I have in mind when he referenced to the CDF.
Order, honorable member. The honorable member for Nakonde, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I rarely raise these point of orders. I want to find out, Madam Speaker, if the House is in order, because the PF has communicated, Madam Speaker, to you that they have changed the leader of opposition, and the House has remained silent without announcing the new leader of opposition and the whip. Madam Speaker, what is happening? In the case of Mundubire and Moses Sakala, the House announced immediately, when there were these changes. We want to find out, Madam Speaker, why has the House kept quiet even after informing the House that there are those changes? We want to find out why we don't have a leader of opposition, because as it is now, Madam Speaker, we don't have a leader of opposition. If this House can't announce, I seek your serious guidance on this matter. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Member for Nakonde, you cannot raise a point of order on the House. On the House. Please, let's familiarize ourselves with the standing orders so that when we stand, we are very sure of what we are talking about. Then just to guide, we have received communication, and we are looking at the communication. So we'll come back to you at a later point. So your point of order was not admissible, the Honorable Member for Nakonde. Not admissible at all. The Honorable Member who was on the floor, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was trying to underscore that the two countries have developed mutual relations. And I think the mutual relations also means that we are interdependent on each other. What can happen in Mozambique can have an overflow in Zambia. What can happen in Zambia can have an overflow in Mozambique. And I think I also liked the attitude that the Mozambican president attached in his speech to the way he is looking at the presidency, and when his time comes, he says, this is what I will appreciate. And I think he did score on that one, that I'm serving 10 years, and I will appreciate it in this manner. Madam Speaker, based on the same, he did talk about a democratic space, and to some extent, he pointed out to what is happening and how leaders are supposed to be in and so forth. To me, I would like to say that he sent a message for us all to learn from, that democracy comes first, then everything follows. Without democracy, and we need not to be afraid to compete with each other in terms of ideas, instead of mingalato. And I think that is what he was trying to send the message. Madam Speaker, I think I'll be doing myself a misnomer if I do not also take this time, as I end my speech, to congratulate the new leader of the opposition and the new whip from the party. And I would like to also identify with them that as I speak and as I debate, I endorse that leadership.
We have spent some time. I'll ask the Honorable Minister of Local Government to respond before the Honorable, Her Honor the Vice President, wind up debate.
I shall not be long, Madam Speaker, but to thank you for the opportunity. The President's speech was really exhilarating to me because it did remind us all about why there was absolute need for unity. The President of Mozambique put himself on record as appreciating Zambia for the role that it has played in the peaceful coexistence with its neighbors. The President of Mozambique also made this House look relaxed. From his demeanor, the President, from the point he started speaking, he joked and said some of the people in this House were actually from his country, from Tete region. That to me was in a way of wanting to making sure that we feel the presence of brotherhood between the people of Mozambique and also ourselves. In speaking about unity, Madam Speaker, the President to me sealed the abyss, the bottomless pit of intolerance that we used to suffer in this country, the bottomless pit of division, violence that we used to suffer in this country, the annihilation of people being maimed, killed, as well as the destruction of this economy. I am so happy today that Honorable Member of Parliament for Pambashe used me as an example of people who don't find it difficult to atone, to apologize if I have omitted or have offended. Doesn't make you a lesser man to do so. In my view, it actually puts you on a higher pedestal. The President actually spoke to the issue of democracy. And I would like to also repeat what someone has already said here, that when we were in the opposition, Madam Speaker, it was unheard of for a president, let me use the late President Robert Mugabe, to come to this country and be given a chance to meet the opposition. It was never heard of. It was taboo. It was never heard of. And so, where do the kudos go? Yes, they go to the one who made the pronouncements that he was able to see the former president, the only existing former president of this country, in the name of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. It could never have happened by osmosis. That meeting was arranged. The state gave blessings to that meeting. There's no two ways about it. And he was preaching to the converted. Honorable Chitotela said that you wished you could see President Hakainde Hichilema walking hand in hand with former President Lungu. That's what normal people think like, yes. But look, even when your heart is so large, it can accommodate the whole world. How do you walk hand in hand with someone who refers to you as Mambala? Just how? The most decent thing that the president did was to keep quiet. As you saw, he never responded to the insults. He just kept quiet. It is up to the Zambians to know who's bigger than who. The one who's occupying Pampando on the seat, or the one who people rejected on that Pampando. It is a clear sign of bitterness. When a former president starts insulting the incumbent and the incumbent keeps quiet, it is a definition of that maturity which Honorable Chitotela was speaking about. In any case, Madam Speaker, the president was preaching to the converted, because us as government, I can give you a living example. When we lost the chief, the Honorable Chief Mabumba in Mansa, as Minister of Local Government, I reached out to my brothers from Luapula, and I said, we've hired a craft, an aircraft. Those of you who wish to go to the funeral of the chief, come along. A few came, others refused. The so-called diehards refused, and they know themselves. We went with Dr. Chilufya, we went with Honorable Bahati, we went with Honorable from Chelenge. We were all in the same aircraft, courtesy of government. That never used to happen before in the past, Madam Speaker. It was taboo. What more unity would you be looking for when we can actually say, despite the insults, come along, let's go? In our time, when we lost the elections, we were simply called bitter people, until the bitterness has started showing. Where our whole president has decided he's going to strip himself of his dignity, to start going around insulting others in the countryside, and those that is insulting are quiet, it is a definition that our democracy is matured. Read my lips. What I'm trying to say here is that the speech of the president of Mozambique was serving to remind us of the dignity that sits within the ability to accept when you are defeated. And he showed it. The way President Hakainde Hichilema has already made it a tradition, after addressing this August House, he will go over to the opposition and greet them.
Order,
before he comes.
The Honorable Minister is responding. So I'm going to admit your point of order when the Honorable Minister finishes. He is giving an official status. And you cannot raise on a point of order. So the Honorable Member for Pambashi, your time is coming. The Honorable Minister of Local Government, please proceed.
Madam, my thought was a little detracted, but I'll come back to the issue that I forgot. When President Hakainde Hichilema was in the opposition, the only foreign dignitary that he was allowed to see was Patricia Scotland, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Those who were governing there said, look, this is a sovereign country, we don't need the Commonwealth here. Can they say this again today? It is this that we believed. They never thought in their wildest dreams that they would leave Pampando. But as life is,
What is
Pampando
Pampando?
is on the chair, the throne. They were so sure that even up to this moment, they think that the loss of power is still hallucination. And this is the reason why you see that when the President Hakainde Hichilema finishes to address this House, you go over there and greet the opposition, only to get a slap from an MP here and use the non-palatable on a president. We have been told here in this House, those of us who have been here long enough, that on this particular day we must observe the sanctity that goes alongside this assembly. If you want to insult anyone, go and do it elsewhere and not here. We have seen the levels of dignity, the levels of etiquette, Madam Speaker, drop in this House as a result of this bitterness, that people cannot swallow the pill of losing an election by 1 million votes. What am I saying here, Madam? We who are privileged to serve in the executive must continuously extend an olive branch to those and dilute that bitterness for them to accept that this country needs to move in one accord. Failure to do that, to listen to people who don't even have a counselor outside, using every hour that they have to create despondency among people, it simply will not yield. Because when you are being governed by a group of people who have a focus on where they want to be, nothing will detract them. There's a greenhorn who is talking at the moment, Madam Speaker, and I need your protection. I need your protection.
The Honourable Member for Nkana, please don't debate while seated.
The President Nyusi, in my view, he installed that fuse that brought the light out of the darkness where we used to be before, to remind us that we may be competitors, but we are not adversaries, we are not enemies. Because today, I can assure you, Madam Speaker, with the programs that President Hakainde Hichilema has put for this country, no matter who says what and when, we know that we are on the right path for our people. The President made reference to the development agenda, the CDF. I want to see one MP here, and I'm giving this the moment, to just lift their hand, those who think that CDF is a bad program. We must leave the 30.6 to come down to the 1.6, which sometimes never even came. I want one MP who can say, I'm still docile, I don't have anything to do as an MP. But to just quack-quacking, you know, the President calls TikTok. Every day TikTok, pointing fingers at me who's talking. No one can stand up, Madam Speaker, because the country is now in safe hands. Ever since President Hakainde Hichilema came into office, Madam, it's now running to 3 years. Not a single person has been killed under extrajudicial killing. Something that was a daily song 7 years ago. We can recite the names. It is important to listen to speeches such as the one Philip Nyusi, President of the Republic of Mozambique, gave us, for you to reflect and understand that we are going the right direction. I thank you, Madam.
Before her honor comes in, the Honourable Member for Pambashi.
Madam Speaker, I want to raise on various breaches of standing orders by the previous debate. One, Madam Speaker, in terms of the weight. In his debate, he has used a lot of unparliamentary words. Foolishness, stupid, and those are gracing the record on the answer that will be referred to even 100 years after he's gone. Those that, Madam Speaker, must be taken note of, so that if it requires, we retract them, so that our children who come after us will not be polluted by those words. The second, Madam Speaker, 206, the dress of the Minister of Local Government in a security uniform and the Minister for Health, according to our old standing orders, Madam Speaker. I don't know whether they are in order to dress. I don't know the current one, but the older one is 206. The security guard uniform the Minister of Local Government is dressed in. And the Minister for Health, I don't know, Madam Speaker, whether my brother is in order to come in Parliament in the security guard uniform and the Minister for Health in the manner she is dressed. I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
The honorable member for Pambashi knows very well that he's supposed to be very precise in raising a point of order. Now you have raised, I don't know how many points of order, there are about 3. As for the dress code, I think they are seated next to the government chief whip, who is going to take care of that. Her Honor the Vice President, wind up debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank the honorable members that have debated the motion of thanks on the speech by His Excellency, the President of Mozambique, Mr. Filipe Jacinto Nyusi. Madam Speaker, the debate has gone all round, from the speech itself to beyond the speech and so on. But I'll try to just say, in thanking all of them, appreciating all of them, I just want to adopt the honorable member of Parliament for Bwana Mkubwa's debate. I think it was in line, completely in line with what the President had spoken about. He talked of the issues of not politicking throughout. That is very important. That politics are an issue of competing ideas. That was important. He also talked of unity. In talking, referring to unity without necessarily using the word unity, it is the fact that there are national issues that we should address together rather than find politics in issues like the issue of drought. I think he ended at drought. But for me, I would go beyond just the drought, because drought is general, but also look at the issues to do with electricity. Because right now, electricity has become an issue of debate. And Madam Speaker, you remember that the honorable member talked of load shedding Luapula for 22 hours and referred to the fact that there are rivers in there, and indeed hydroelectricity can be generated. I really loved the debate of the honorable member for Pambashe, because he came out saying, bringing out the issue, like that's where he got the issue of apology for doing wrong. And in my mind, as the honorable member was debating, I said, yeah, he is right. Because truly, the previous regime should apologize. They should sincerely apologize, because you don't project issues. If we really want to work together, let us not project. The issue of power, the generation, Madam Speaker, of power from the rivers of Luapula cannot be attributed to any failure by this current government. Because they were there, the rivers were there, they have not been created now. Then there should be an apology again, a second apology, other than the apology on cadarism and the violence. I think it is important to apologize by our colleagues that indeed we made a mistake. We could have worked on generation of power from the north. When I say north, I think Luapula included. That is where you should start from. That indeed we apologize, we failed. then you will stop talking about the issue of electricity like it's a creation of this government. It is very important, colleagues. Let's just listen to one another. This is a fact. Electricity cannot be generated. A power station cannot be built in the time we have been here. There was a gap. And I think it is important. And if you acknowledge that, then we will be working together rather than trying to even incite people to say it is this government. This government, Madam Speaker, is working hard to ensure that we can find alternative energy, including many plans. The Minister of Energy, should come and give a statement of the plans on the table, on the same rivers the Honorable talked about. I think it is important that when you call, you also respond. He who comes to, must come with clean hands. Therefore, the apology appropriate, but it means we start from where apology is needed. So I just want to really thank that members have appreciated the coming of the President because you can see how many presidents have come attracted by the good policies, attracted by the peace in the country, attracted by the growing economy, attracted by the governance. They are coming and they will continue to come. Let us hold one another and do better. Where we were wrong yesterday, let us move on and do better for the Zambian people.
Honorable members, we are behind time. I think we've talked a lot on the speech by the President. We make progress. I put the question. The question is that this House places on record its thanks to His Excellency Mr. Jacinta Filipe Nyusi, President of the Republic of Mozambique, on his special address to the House. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Next motion, the Honorable Member for Kalomo Central.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of the Zambian delegation that participated in the 148th IPU Assembly and related meetings, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th June 2024.
Thank you. Before we go to the next, the Honorable Member Fonkana, you've been trying to raise a point of order for a long time. Is it burning? What is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, as a student of law, I'm very much bothered. And one thing I would never want to allow is the deliberate disregard of the law. Madam Speaker, our laws in this country are drawn from three areas. The laws we enact here, laws as by statutes, as well as laws that comes into being by way of court judgments. Madam Speaker, in the case of Moses Sakala versus the people, it has become very clear a law has been promulgated to the effect that this House cannot delve into matters of political groupings. The role of this House remains but to go by what political groupings decide. This House, Madam Speaker, stands to be in breach of those rules agreed by ourselves. If we agree to continue conducting our business without having the leader of opposition. Madam Speaker, this House will set a terrible precedent if we allow the day to go by without having the leader of opposition being recognized as the directive and communication of a political party. I seek your indulgence, Madam Speaker, because we are about to set a very terrible precedent in this House, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member Fonkana, you are repeating the same point of order that was raised by one of your colleagues. You cannot repeat a point of order because the member was guided. So the Honorable Member Fonkana, you are actually out of order. Is the motion seconded?
Yes, it is, Madam Speaker.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Kasama Central. The question is that this House order, the Honorable Member for Banamukubu and your neighbors there, seconded by the Honorable Member for Kasama Central. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Zambian delegation to the 148th IPU Assembly and the related meetings held in Geneva, Switzerland from 23rd to 27th March 2024 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th June 2024. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Kalomo Central.
Madam Speaker, I wish to inform the House that the Honorable Madam Speaker led a delegation to the 148th IPU Assembly and related meetings that was held on the 23rd to 27th March 2024. Let me draw the attention of the House to the salient features of the report. Madam Speaker, the 148th IPU Assembly was convened under the theme Parliamentary Diplomacy, Building Bridges for Peace and Understanding. The theme of the Assembly was timely given that some parts of the world are not enjoying peace as a result of conflicts. Further, it is heartening to note that the theme also presented an opportunity for parliamentarians to learn how parliaments can utilize parliamentary diplomacy to promote peace, safeguard rights and standards at the national level, as well as to advance democratic principles and human rights standards worldwide. It is also noteworthy that the Zambian Parliament is already engaged in parliamentary diplomacy through the committee system, where specific parliamentary committees...
Order, honorable members, if you want to caucus, please, you may leave the chamber. You join us later. If you want to caucus, we want to listen to the report. The honorable member, you may continue.
Yes, where specific parliamentary committees provide effective oversight on government policies and programs pertaining to national security, the rule of law, democratic governance, which are building blocks for peace and understanding. Madam Speaker, let me also inform this House that as parliamentarians who participated in the 148th IPU Assembly, we condemned the continued conflicts in the Middle East, particularly Israel and Palestine and other parts of the world. We acknowledge the fact that without peace, there can never be meaningful development. We also took cognizance of the nexus between peace and development. Conflict within and between countries can jeopardize the attainment of sustainable development goals. For instance, provision of services such as health, education, water, and food is a huge challenge in conflict areas. All these speak directly to the SDGs 1 to 6. In this regard, parliaments are encouraged by all means to put in place measures, policies, and laws to prevent conflict, so that development efforts attained are far are not negated. Madam Speaker, the legislators condemned all human rights violations which come about as a result of conflict, as well as breaches of the basic rules, principles, and core tenets of law, international law, in particular, international humanitarian law. During deliberations at the Assembly, focus was also directed towards the plight of young people who, when faced with disruption in their formative years, risked growing up as a lost generation. It is therefore vital for young people to participate in decision-making, particularly in peace processes, as conduits for the voices of the youth. In order to achieve this, parliaments are being argued to support the agenda in parliamentary commissions to hold governments accountable, to create youth bodies in parliament, and to advocate for the adoption of national action plans for peace. Madam Speaker, let me now turn to an issue which is currently topical both at the national and international level, and this has to do with the subject of artificial intelligence. Arising from deliberations of various meetings during the Assembly, it was established that there are both risks and potential benefits that can be brought about by artificial intelligence. Some of these benefits include, but not limited to, new economic opportunities, accelerated medical research, and identification actions to mitigate climate change. However, parliamentarians expressed concerns about the potential risks of artificial intelligence. For example, participants were made aware that artificial intelligence generated nude pictures were already a new battleground in the fight against exploitation of people and online harassment. Further, artificial intelligence had the potential to generate falsehood, which could increase the risk of misinformation and of manipulation of elections. In light of the concerns raised on artificial intelligence, parliamentarians are called upon to take keen interest on the subject. More importantly, parliaments should enact or review national laws, policies, and international instruments to regulate artificial intelligence, especially in military, A1 systems, and autonomous weapons. In conclusion, I wish to call upon all of us to embrace dialogue, parliamentary diplomacy, to foster peace, understanding, and harmony. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kasama Central.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion to adopt the report of the Zambian delegation that participated in the 148th Interparliamentary Union IPU Assembly and related meetings that has been ably moved by Mr. Harry Kambone MP and the first Vice President of the IPU Zambia National Group. Madam Speaker, the mover of the motion highlighted pertinent issues on artificial intelligence, and I will also add a few remarks on that. As with many issues with this new technology, it has exposed that there's a lot of already existing inequalities that women face. For instance, Madam Speaker, globally there is only 26.3 million software developers, and of that there is only 23% that are female. This entails that there are more men than women in the artificial intelligence space. Madam Speaker, it is therefore important that deliberate measures are put in place for women to be kept in tandem with the emerging technological advancements such as artificial intelligence. In this regard, national parliaments are strongly urged to lobby respective countries to ensure that young girls study science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, popularly known as STEM subjects, so that more girls and women can effectively participate in decision-making processes, especially of technical nature, such as artificial intelligence. Madam Speaker, we are all aware that some countries in the world are experiencing conflict. It is a well-known fact that women and children are most affected by these conflicts. Madam Speaker, while women suffer the most, their participation in peace processes are very low. I'm glad to report that the Assembly highlighted the need for National Parliament to work towards gender parity in decision-making, participation and leadership of women in peace processes, and the elimination of violence against women. Madam Speaker, in light of the above, IPU member parliaments are called upon to allocate meaningful budgets to women affairs to ensure the safety of women and girls and for women's full involvement in the peace process. I will also mention, Madam Speaker, currently our parliament stands at 15%, so I wish to advocate that we also need to increase the numbers of women participation in this particular parliament. Madam Speaker, we had the privilege during the Assembly to share good practices on how parliaments can advance in the inclusion of people living with disabilities in our society. As representatives of the people, Madam Speaker, we need to stand up for the most vulnerable and combat discrimination in all its forms. Madam Speaker, we were also called upon to expedite implementation of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People Living with Disabilities. It is therefore incumbent on us that laws, policies, and budgets advance the full inclusion of persons with disabilities in communities, to strive to remove all forms of discrimination and stigma on disability. Madam Speaker, climate change remains a hot topic, and this characterizes that most assemblies at the IPU has the evidence that this matter concerns each and every one of us. The Standing Committee on Sustainable Development convened a workshop during the Assembly to raise awareness among parliamentarians of leading climate change tools that are readily available to enhance legislative efforts related to climate change. One major challenge highlighted during the discussions with inadequate and outdated data on greenhouse gas emissions, which hampered efforts to effectively address climate change. In this regard, members of Parliament are encouraged to lobby for adequate budgetary allocation towards climate change efforts. And I'm sure as the budget is about to be presented, I urge all members of Parliament to look into the allocation of the Climate Change Fund. Madam Speaker, parliamentarians are also exposed to a range of tools and resources that could be utilized to Parliament to address climate and environmental issues. These include, but not limited to, the Law and Environment Assistance Platform, the Law and Climate Change Toolkit, and Global Climate Litigation Reports. These tools can assist countries establish a legal framework for effective implementation of the Paris Agreement at national level. Madam Speaker, I am aware that there are plans to promulgate national climate change legislation. I have no doubt, Madam Speaker, that the tools and resources that I have highlighted can enhance members' knowledge on climate change issues, especially during consideration of the climate change bill, which should be presented to this August House in due course. Madam Speaker, let me hasten to state that these tools are available online, and I therefore urge all members of this August House to acquaint themselves so that we are well equipped with the best practices when the climate change bill is brought to this House. Madam Speaker, I beg to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I would like to appreciate the opportunity. Very briefly, Madam Speaker, I would like to refer to text on page 1, on page 3, and finally on page 22. Madam Speaker, page 1 is where you find the participants who participated in the Zambia delegation to the 148th Interparliamentary Union Assembly and related meetings in Geneva, in Switzerland. Madam Speaker.
Order. Sorry, Honorable
No,
Member.
that's okay.
There's an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Mitete.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I'm totally sorry to the Honorable Member of Parliament for Lunte. As the rules are, this should have come contemporaneously there and then. But maybe the happenings. However, standing orders number 7.1, save for the Vice President and the 2 ministers who were responding to the first motion, the thanks. Whether the other honorable members were in order, Madam Speaker, to totally forget as if we were not all here and we heard from the President of Mozambique that he himself is only going to serve 2 terms. 2 terms and finish. And that after having been sworn 1, 2, he will never going to contest following Mandela, following Levi Patrick Mwanawasa, may their souls in peace. Were they in order, Madam Speaker, not to have mentioned such democratic statements as a guidance from the President of Mozambique? Also as a student of public administration, were they in order? It should have been raised there and then. I seek your serious ruling. Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your point of order is not admissible. Was you clearly stated you were supposed to have brought it when that matter happened. So, it's not admissible, Honorable Member. The Honorable Member for Lunte, please, you may continue.
Madam Speaker, I just moved to the composition of the delegation. 13 people traveled. Out of 13, 6 were members of Parliament: Honorable Harry Kamboni, Mr. Oliver Mtike, Mr. Kenny Siachisumo, Ms. Jacqueline Sabao, Mr. Mubita Anakoka, and Mrs. Swongile Mwamba. Madam Speaker, I take note that 5 out of 6 MPs who traveled are UPND. UPND was properly represented in this delegation. Madam Speaker, The Minister.
You may continue, Honorable Member.
With this conduct of the Minister, Madam.
Is he distracting your debate?
Madam Speaker, let me continue.
The Honorable Minister, please, let's avoid debating while we are seated. And there's one person debating at a time. You may continue, Honorable Member.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and I look at the entire report and I see a lot of developmental matters, and I think UPND will easily grasp these developmental matters because UPND was really represented. I'll move on to page 3. Madam Speaker, from the statement of the Secretary General, I read in part, he hoped that during the deliberations, delegates would commit to live up to the IPU's motto. Now that motto is in inverted commas, and it reads, for democracy, for everyone, closed inverted commas, and the expectations of the people they served. Madam Speaker, indeed for democracy and for everyone. This is why I chose to highlight the composition of the delegation. This is the proper demonstration of for democracy and for everyone. It is 5 UPND MPs and 1 PFMP on a delegation. Madam Speaker, this must also speak to the people we represent. And if I were from the Copper Belt, I would be thinking, the same representation in Ndola Central is the same in Kabushi, because the people of Ndola Central elected their desirable MP. Is that the same case in Kabushi? Did the people of Kabushi also use democracy for everyone? Did they use democracy for all? Did the democracy in Kabushi represent what the people there think this is what we deserve? Madam Speaker, do not appear personal over matters in Kabushi as though there's something special about Kabushi. Go to Chimwemwe, and then you go to Kwacha. Of course, democracy. It is democracy for everyone. Madam Speaker, democracy for everyone.
Order, Honorable Member. Order, Honorable Member. Much as we are giving examples, Honorable Members, let those examples be in line with the report.
Yes.
Otherwise, we are going to give a lot of examples which are not connected to the report. So try as much as possible to give examples that are in line with the content of the report that we are discussing. It will help us. You may continue.
Thank you, Madam. Madam, and to the expectations of the people they served. I just wondered whether those in Kabushi and those in Kwacha are people who are being served. Madam Speaker, sometimes it is difficult to present an idea that is likable by everybody. However, because I am unable to bring an idea likable by UPND, I'll move on. I'll move on to page 22.
Honorable Member Folunte.
Madam.
It's not a forcing matter that your debate is liked by people. I think your duty is just to debate, and the people out there are also listening.
Yes.
Whether they like it, they don't like it, that is your debate. You are given the floor to debate. Order, Honorable Members, so you may continue with your debate, Honorable Members.
Since I have moved on, Madam Speaker, to page 22, where I read number 1, on the resolutions member parliaments are encouraged to utilize parliamentary diplomacy as a tool to promote dialogue, maintain peace, as well as advance democratic principles and human rights standards worldwide. Madam Speaker, the chair, when he was moving this motion, he talked about parliamentary committees and their importance in parliamentary oversight. This is where parliamentary diplomacy begins, from those committees, and they come up to the floor of this House. Madam Speaker, if you have a committee like the one I just demonstrated, 5 people from one political party, the ruling political party, and 1 member of opposition, what parliamentary diplomacy will you promulgate?
Order, honorable member. There is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order pursuant to Standing Order number 71, and also taking into account the precedence that reigns on the floor of this House. Madam Speaker, I've listened attentively to the debate of the Honorable Member of Parliament for Lunte, wherein he's making allegations against the UPND pertaining to the composition of the delegation to Geneva. Madam Speaker, as I raise this point of order, I would like to remind him that when they were in government,
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members on my left.
Madam Speaker, when they were in government and the ruling party, when we were voting for the members of the IPU executive, they gave a directive that no member of the opposition shall be a member of the executive of IPU. And they were sitting alone as PF in the executive. I would like the Honorable Speaker to take judicial notice of what they did. Is he now apologizing? Is he apologizing to the nation that what they did was terribly wrong against the tenets of the IPU, that they were the only members of the executive when they were opposition, which were not included? Is he in order not to recollect that?
Order, honorable members. Now we have gotten some information. In fact, as I was listening to the point of order, I wanted to bring the aspect of voting. Who voted for the people on the executive? Because these are the members who are on the executive. So, honorable members, I think we just have to make progress, because as far as I'm concerned, these people were voted for by the honorable members of parliament. And in fact, you've got a right. After the voting, that issue should have come out. But now we are way down the line. The Honorable Member Fonkana, I think you should wait to be given the floor. You don't have to shout like that. So what I'm saying is that after the voting, why didn't the members come up and dispute the elections? We have gone, I don't know whether it's 2 or 3 years now, with the members who we are saying they were voted for. So, honorable members, what I can say is that since these honorable members were voted for, they've got the right to travel or to attend these meetings. They have the right to attend the meetings. It's something that we can learn from for the future. So we make progress. The Honorable Member for Lunte, you may continue.
Madam Speaker, if I am guided, if there is a part of the report which I must not debate, that will be okay. The composition of the report is not my crafting. It is a crafting. In fact, it has been signed by the chairman, very close friend of mine. So I don't want to be accused. All I'm saying is this is the information contained in this report, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, he talked about committees, and that's a point I was just coming to. Here on the floor of the House, I stood and complained about the way committees were constituted. These current committees, where UPND chairmen have remained chairmen in the same committees from session 1 up to now. Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member, now we are going into another subject.
I'm responding to
No, you don't have to respond to the point of order. I've already given direction. Committees, that is another subject, because there is a way that we follow to choose members to belong to committees. But this IPU, there is a format, there is a procedure where members of parliament vote. So those are totally two different scenarios. Please just continue with your debate. Continue with your debate.
Madam Speaker, on account of time and the disruptions, I will just end by saying it is now clear what the standard of democracy and the standard of human rights that UPND is capable of promoting. It is in this report, which is in public domain. Madam Speaker, the UPND, particularly those who are here, can say what they want. The people will read what is in these reports. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chieng.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have just few words to add to this report for IPU 148. Madam Speaker, I must agree with the previous or the immediate, I would say the immediate debater, Honorable Mtuteka Foy. We need democracy, Madam Speaker. IPU is Interparliamentary Union. I've been a member of this House for the past now 8 years. And I was privileged to be a member of IPU. And how I became a member of IPU, Madam Speaker, it took the House to balance the political parties.
Yeah.
When we came in 2016, Madam Speaker, by then there was a position which Zambia was occupying on security and peace and security something committee. And because the person who was occupying that position came from PF and didn't retain. So to balance up, FDD was given that position. Madam Speaker, let me just be the way it's supposed to be. We need to be democratic. And we should not even try to say we are being democratic when we're not. Madam Speaker, I have a permanent position on advisory group on health to IPU. And to travel to go and attend these meetings, I'm denied. But to see the composition of those who are traveling, always, and it takes, I've been told, IPU should write to this, to National Assembly. IPU has written to them, they don't allow me to travel. But when I look at the current composition, Madam Speaker, it's undemocratic.
Order.
My advice, Madam Speaker, to the IPU
Honorable
Zambia.
Member, please let's try as much as possible not to debate ourselves. we are debating ourselves. Put it in a way that won't show that we are debating ourselves, or you are debating yourself.
Thank you, Madam.
But maybe before you come in, there is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Mungu Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The debaters who have been rising on the floor of this House have been referring to the IPU Committee of Zambia as being undemocratic. Madam Speaker, the IPU of Zambia, the Executive Committee, does not only consist of members of UPND, but it also consists members of the opposition who are not UPND members. And they were voted for in a democratic election. And even PF voted in that election. Are the members therefore in order to continue referring to the IPU Zambia Executive Committee as being undemocratic? I seek your very serious ruling, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
5 out of 6.
I think here the issue is on the composition of the people that traveled,
That's what I was talking about.
rather than the people who are on the executive. It's also very important, maybe, that information that has come in to say that there are other members of the executive belonging to other political parties. But the issue is on the matter of the composition of the delegation. And I've already ruled. I've already ruled on this point of order or on the same matter. So, honorable members, please let's not repeat the points of orders and also the matters, and let's avoid debating ourselves. The honorable member for Chienge, you've been debating yourself. So please, can you refrain from doing that?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Interparliamentary Union is meant for all the political parties from any parliament. Madam Speaker, other parliaments, when you attend IPU, they submit a booklet where it will show that these are coming from different political parties. Madam Speaker, I've been observing the delegation of those who go to IPU. They're the same people. I remember very well in the previous, the 12th session, when there were a lot of PF members, they would mix us. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention. We had the Honorable Princess Kucheka, is it Kucheka? We had the one now is an ambassador, is it in Ghana? I can mention the few times that I traveled to IPU, we were always mixed. What they used to do, they used to drop those executive members from on delegation to give a chance to other members of this House to go and be exposed. So my appeal is to have a well-balanced delegation so that all the members, they have different ideas. They can be able to go and contribute, in a manner that they maybe to represent other many members of this House. But as it is, Madam Speaker, we should not turn a blind eye to the delegation which has been traveling to IPU. It's the same people. If it means us getting all the letters that have been circulated for those who should travel, that has been the pattern. And it shouldn't continue, it should be discouraged. We should have a balance. You'll find the same person went to IPU, when they come back, they go to Great East, whatever, from there, Great Lakes. They go to Great Lakes something, the same people, there's this, what do you call that, Commonwealth something? CPA. I don't even know all these things. But it's the same group, Madam Speaker. This must come to an end. I know my colleagues from the other end cannot speak. But the truth of the matter, they should start balancing the delegation. We are all elected, and IPU in particular is Interparliamentary Union, and all the parliaments that go there, the 179, they go well balanced. It's not the same people, the same people. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member from Pika.
I'm grateful, Madam Speaker, to you for being given this opportunity to debate. And let me congratulate the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kalurushi, Honorable Kampamba Mulenga, for having been elected as leader of opposition. Elected because we sat collectively as opposition members of Parliament, and we elected her as our leader of opposition. Madam Speaker, under the Interparliamentary Union, members of Parliament have the rights. And it's these rights that even here in our country that members of Parliament must enjoy. When we exercise our rights, Madam Speaker, those rights must be respected. We have exercised our rights to elect Honorable Kampamba Mulenga as leader of opposition. It cannot go on that today we do not have a leader of opposition sitting on that chair, Madam Speaker. That is disregard for our rights.
Order, Honorable Member from Pika. I have already guided Honorable Member from Pika. Let's not debate ourselves. Why are we not respecting our own standing orders? The Honorable Member from Pika. It was a guide that I gave a few minutes ago. And please, can you be focused on the report? Let's not debate ourselves in this report. It's a very important report, which people are eager to listen to. So, one, avoid debating yourselves.
Well guided, Madam Speaker. In the report, there is a party where the Committee on the Rights of Parliamentarians did indicate the importance of those rights being exercised and respected. That is what I'm referring to, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, under the same rights, as a member of Parliament representing the people of Mpika, who today, Madam Speaker, are going to bed without eating. When I speak, I need to be protected because I'm speaking for those people. I'm not speaking for my family. I'm speaking for those people who elected for me to speak for them, Madam Speaker.
And that's what we are doing. You are representing the people of Pika. Yes. Even when you stand or when you are called, it's not you as an individual, it's the people of Pika. So you may continue.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's under those rights, Madam Speaker, that when we speak about the 2.3 billion US dollars that has been cited in the FIC report, our rights must be respected because we are speaking for the Zambian people. Madam Speaker, it's out of those rights that when we speak about the resolution of shares under ZCCM being given to First Quantum, it's those rights, Madam Speaker, that we are using. We are not speaking for ourselves. Madam Speaker, today our people are suffering. Because when we spoke here, using these rights that Interparliamentary Union has cited in this report, we were not listened to. We spoke against the export of maize, Madam Speaker, but we were not listened. Had we been listened to by the Minister of Agriculture, because we represented the people.
Order. There is an indication for a point of order. What is your point of order? The Honorable Member for Rufu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First and foremost, Madam Speaker, the people of Rufu constituency are greeting you. The point of order, Madam Speaker, is going to Honorable Member from Pika.
Order. As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes.
Good afternoon. Business has been suspended and it will resume at 17 hours per cent.
Yes, indeed, Claudette. At the time business was interrupted. The Member of Parliament for Lufumu, Mr. Ozili Kolala, was on the floor of the House raising a point of order, and business resumes. The member who continued. Prior to that, the House was considering a report which was presented by Mr. Harry Kamboni, who is Kalomo Central Member of Parliament. He is the chairperson of the parliamentary delegation that attended the 148th Inter-Parliamentary Union IPU Assembly and related meeting, urging the House to adopt the report of the Zambian delegation to the 148th IPU Assembly and related meetings, which was held in Geneva, Switzerland, from 23rd to 27th March 2024 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly. This document was laid on the table of the House on June 19, 2024.
You also saw Her Honor the Vice President move a motion that this House places on record its thanks to His Excellency Mr. Felipe Jacinto Luz, President of the Republic of Mozambique, on the special address to the House on Friday, 20th June 2024, and some of the members of Parliament that added their voice to this particular debate include Mongu Central Member of Parliament, Mr. Mutsike, Kambashe MP, Mr. Chitotela, Home Affairs and Internal Security Minister, Honorable Jack Mimbu. We also had Chilubi Member of Parliament, Mr. Fube, and Local Government and Rural Development Minister, Honorable Gary Kombo, just to mention quite a few.
And before that, Madam Speaker did make two announcements, and the first announcement, she did recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Wakulumpe Kindergarten and Primary School in Livala Stage 3, Lusaka District. And on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, Madam Speaker did warmly welcome the visitors to the National Assembly.
In the same vein, Madam First Deputy Speaker did recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Angela's Nursery and Primary School in Kansenshi Extension Dola District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, Madam Speaker did welcome the visitors in our midst.
Still to come, Claudette, we do have the Matrimonial Causes Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2024, which is coming up at second reading stage. We also have the report. There will be resumption of the consideration of the report which was presented by the Committee on Transport, Works and Supply, and it is the chairperson of that committee, Mr. Muvika, who is Changombo, Member of Parliament, and there will be resumption of debate. And at the time, business was interrupted last week on Friday. It was the acting minister